All right, welcome back into the YouTube channel. John Kurtz, joined now by Jon Wilner from the Wilner Hotline. Appreciate you taking some time, John. First of
Thanks
all,
for having me.
I appreciate you being out here at Big 12 Media Days. Like, is this your first Big 12 Media Days?
It is. Yeah, last year I had a pre-planned vacation, so I couldn't be in Vegas, which hurt in a lot of ways, not being in Vegas for that. So, no, it's been great. And, I thought was very interesting this morning, the way the commissioner started things off. Quite a passionate defense of his CFP model. But, it's been great so far.
Yeah, let's get into that because I know you're somebody that definitely seems to be kind of on board with where I'm at. Like, hey, I mean, you have to do basically what Yormark is doing, even if it may not be the best thing in the short term. So what do you make of him kind of coming at Tony Petiti saying this isn't the NFL? Like, that's not how we're going to do
Yeah, it was interesting. And they are the first of the 4 power conferences. They're up first on media days.
Yeah.
They have a chance to, because of that, they can set the narrative in a lot of ways. And here's Yormark coming out with an impassioned defense of the 5+11 model. I mean, he didn't mention the name Tony Petiti, but he was basically talking to Tony when he said, I'm doubling down and, we're not the NFL and we shouldn't try to act like the NFL and we need to have 5+11. So we'll see, but my guess is that is going to have legs. They're going to talk about what Yormark said next week at SEC Media Day, and then the following week at Big Ten Media Day, and I'll be there in Vegas. That's smart messaging on the Big 12's part, for sure.
Where do you think all this ends up right now? Because we're kind of at a stalemate where it's like, supposedly they're not going to talk about it until September. I guess we'll see, but where do you feel like this is all headed right
Well, they've got to get an answer to ESPN. I believe it is December. It might even be December 1st because ESPN's got to start planning their programming for the following year. They need to know how many games and they need to know the format. So my sense is that they do not want this thing to drag deep into the season because all the commissioners are going to be busy come October, November with other matters. Are they going to get it done by, say, September 1st? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I think ultimately it's going to end up at 5+11 or something close to that. Not certainly closer to 5+11 than 4-4-2-2-1 for sure. That is too radical, and there's 3 conferences standing opposed to the Big Ten.
I know you told me you talked to Joel Klatt earlier today. He was like, he's like one of the biggest proponents for the Big 12 should take 4-4-2-2, right? Like, what's his message right now that you're hearing?
He just thinks that, 1, you can get 2. If it's 5+11, there's a good chance that both the ACC and the Big 12 are going to only have 1, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody's giving you 2, you should really think hard about it. The other issue for him is looking long term. If you envision a scenario where the Big 12 is only getting 1 on a regular basis, 1 out of 16, that is just going to increase the divide. And the ACC, same boat. Increase the divide with the other 2. And there's merit to that. The thing is, there's merit to both arguments. I can see why the Big Ten wants the AQ model. The AQ model would do a lot of good for this regular season because of what it would allow schools to do with scheduling. But nobody trusts the committee. And if you're the ACC and you're the Big 12, you cannot afford. I think having 1 is bad, but worse is codifying that you're inferior.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I'm definitely with you on that.
But it's a fascinating, and it's so emblematic of college football because everybody's protecting their territory.
Yeah.
Everybody has different challenges, different needs, different cultures, and yet they're all trying to act within this one entity and move together on these giant issues. And that's really hard. It's easy in the NFL because it's all one. It's really one entity. It's 32 franchises that move as one on the big issues, not in college football. And that makes it much more interesting, but much more challenging.
Yeah, well, and Yormark's between a rock and a hard place, right? Like,
totally.
He really does not have a good option either way. One thing that popped that was really interesting to me, we're going back maybe a month or 2 now, presidential commission's been put on hold for the time being, but my eyes as a Big 12 guy really started to widen when I saw, Cody Campbell is a guy who is supposed to be one of the co-chairs, and then Saban kind of dropped out. So it was like he seemed to be driving the bus on this thing. He's a Big 12 guy.
Yeah.
He seems to be kind of like a Project Rudy sort of guy. That's kind of the world that he would envision being best for college football, which is what I would love to see.
Yep.
Do you think this is a guy that can have some real influence and help the Big 12 eventually?
I think he cannot hurt. A couple things stood out to me. One, I think Saban's involvement, my understanding from somebody who's pretty close to that situation, his involvement was overstated initially.
Okay.
So it wasn't a case of Saban pulling a U-turn. He wasn't there when people were saying he was there. Now, did Campbell's involvement cause him to, give him more thought about this situation? Maybe it did. I think at the heart of it is they didn't want the commission to interfere with the potential to get legislation. That's what they need. That is more important than the commission, is codifying House, antitrust protection, solving NIL so there's not 40 different rules across 50 states. And anything that's going to jeopardize potential help from Congress, I think they wanted to push aside for now. I think if they don't get help from Congress, we'll see the commission come back into the forefront of the lobbying efforts. But right now, they don't want to jeopardize.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of House and rev share.
Yeah.
I mean, I had someone, Chris Kleiman actually sat right here earlier today and was like, look, if you're telling me that one school, now he didn't name him, we know who he's talking about, but one school is going to go from paying $50 million for their roster this year to $15 million next year because of the rev share cap, I just don't believe that.
Yeah.
How likely?
He's talking about Kansas State, right?
Yeah. Well, they're doing all right, but maybe not that good. How likely do you think it is that fair market value actually gets enforced? Like, where do you sit on that from what you hear for people in college sports right now? And what does that mean for the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a lawsuit at some point. What I think is going to happen is the money that was changing hands under the table that started to change hands over the table is going to go back under the table.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it's like water. It's going to find a way into the pockets, right? Yeah. Because they're not going to all of a sudden take 50% less. So the key thing is the commission, there is subpoena power for arbitration cases. If an athlete's deal gets rejected, they can take the arbitration course, and at that point there is subpoena power. The commission does not have subpoena power to investigate under the table NIL. And that's a point of confusion among fans. It's just like the NCAA. They are powerless on that front to get to the bottom of under the table money. So it's going to go back under the table and, more in some cases than others for sure. But the kids are not going to, the market's not going to dry up like that. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, part of the thing I wonder about too is the Big 12 clearly seems to advocate for, hey, we would love for that to be real and the guardrails and all that. But I almost think, look at what Texas Tech's really shaking up the marketplace here with having it be more wide open like that. Is it actually a good thing for the Big 12 if everybody's back on an equal playing field? Because that strikes me as okay, now we're back to early 2010s recruiting where, the SEC and Bama and the big brands are just still going to dominate anyway, maybe more so.
Part of it depends on how the NIL is done with the bigger companies and how that works in concert with the revenue sharing decisions. Yeah. A lot of this is the schools that are going to be the most successful are not the ones that are going to have the most money. It's going to be the ones that deploy their money the best. It's just like in the NFL or the NBA. You got to be smart with your salary cap deployment. The schools that evaluate talent and develop talent are going to have the advantage because it's going to be cheaper to get kids out of high school than it is the portal. The portal is like free agency, and it's always better to build your core through the draft if you're in the NFL than it is to build through free agency. That's much more expensive. So it's going to be the same thing in college. So Texas Tech, they seem to have an advantage for sure, but if they don't deploy their money and evaluate talent, that advantage is going to dwindle, I think. Yeah. And schools that have traditionally made the most out of their personnel, if they can continue to make the most out of their personnel and be smart with their money, will level the playing field.